Hi everyone, my name is Dakshita and I'm your social science educator on Study Room. In this video, we will start our chapter number 4 of geography, which is climate. So, related to climate, we often heard this term called weather. Okay, weather. So, we have two terms to denote the environment or the surrounding. One is weather, second is climate. Okay, if I have to ask you, please tell me how is the weather today. So, you will see outside, or you go to your set terrace or open your windows, and you will tell me, ma'am, the weather is pleasant today, or the weather is very fine. It's cloudy, it's sunny, or it's rainy, or it's maybe snowy. Okay, so this is weather when there is a when there is short span condition that you see. Okay, so for example, if the weather is sunny today, the next day it can be very cloudy. All right, so we have divided weathers into majorly 4 seasons. Okay, so there is a pattern of weather that take place, so we have divided them into our 4 season, and those particular season refer to a condition which we call them as climate. Now, I believe this can be confusing for some people. Simply, climate is a long-term pattern of weather. Okay, climate is a long-term pattern of um, long-term pattern of weather is climate. Okay, for example, if it's rainy, it's not necessary that it will rain every day. Okay, it might rain today, so it's a today's weather that it will rain, but it might not rain tomorrow. But when it's rainy season, so the climate is rainy, it the chances to rain are very often. Okay, so this is the major difference between weather and climate. Now, in this chapter, we will in detail study what is climate, what are the reasons for it, and what changes occur in Earth's surface to make this condition of climate. Okay, so before that, we'll also study few terms, a few geographical terms. We will understand that so that our chapter will be quite easy for us. So let's start. First, we will understand what is pressure and wind system. Okay, so we all are aware about equator. Equator is what divides the Earth's surface into equal halves. Okay, so suns or Earth rays directly fall into equator. That's why equator has low pressure, because the air it has are very heavy. Okay, so when the air is heavy, I'm sorry, the air is not heavy, the air is very light. Okay, so when the air is light, it moves towards upwards. Okay, so here we are talking about low pressure winds. Okay, so these are low pressure winds which move towards upwards, and they are majorly warm. Okay, now direct pressure, sun surface or sun rays directly fall into equator, means generated a lot of heat and generates low pressure. But in poles, for example, we have here North Pole, we have here South Pole. So in our poles, sun rays are not as direct as it is in equator. Okay, so the wind that is flowed in poles are of high pressure winds. Okay, they have high pressure winds. Why they have high pressure? Because the winds are very heavy. Okay, and the particles are very collided with each other, so they move in downward direction. Okay, so I hope it's clear till now. Let me revise it for you. So sun's rays directly fall into equator, which leads to generating low pressure, and when the pressure is low, the air is warm and very light, and light air move towards upwards, right? Because it's light, it will move towards upwards. But in our poles, in our South Pole and North Pole, the sun rays does not directly fall. Okay, so there is a indirect relationship, due to which the air conduce a high pressure, and high pressure winds have particles collided with each other, and it moves in downward direction. Okay, so this is pressure and wind system. This will help us to understand more detail about a few other concepts. Now, let's understand what climate is called. Climate is called a condition, in fact, a sum of all the conditions and variations over a longer period of time for a large area. Okay, so in a very large area, when there is when there is a weather pattern that has been made, we refer to it as climate, and this pattern has been observed for more than 30 years, and then the climate has been further segregated. So overall, climate is the sum of total weather condition and variations for a larger area for a for a longer period of time. Okay, so this is climate. Now, what is the climate that is followed in India? What exactly in India climate is? Let's understand that. Overall, India has a monsoon type climate, which means that the areas are precipitable. There are precipitation that happens in our country, but the regions vary to each other. For example, the climate of Rajasthan will not be equivalent to the climate of Assam. Okay, so now what are the reason for it? We will understand that, and we will also understand. Monsoon pattern that is followed in India. Okay, so now India's climate is monsoon type, which means that the word monsoon has come from Arabic word mosam, which means season. Okay, any particular kind of season. The monsoon season depends upon the climate and the temperature, which varies from one region to another. Now, why do monsoon occur? We will understand that through diagram, but basically monsoon occurs in a reversal, when there is reversal, when the winds moves in a very reverse direction in at that point of year, it's called it precipitates, and we call it as monsoon or the rainy season. Now, there are variations in temperatures, and for changes in temperature for different reasons. It's because of the pressure belts. It's because of the pressure and in which direction the wind moves and where it comes from. Okay, so that is why there is variation in temperature of Indian states. Okay, so India has very difference in temperatures between region and between day and night as well. Okay, so let's take examples of few. In Rajasthan, in summer it reaches to 50 degrees Celsius, and in Jammu and Kashmir it reaches to 22 degrees Celsius only. In winter at nights in Jammu and Kashmir it can go to minus 45 degrees Celsius, and on contrast in Kerala it just remains 22 degrees Celsius. Okay, so in contrast we see in coastal areas, in coastal areas we see a contrast in the temperature. Okay, and the interior contrast, the interior seasonal contrast is even more visible. Okay, so for example, if in Jammu and Kashmir it is 45, so in Kerala it will be 22, which is like totally opposite. Okay, so that is the that leads to variation in temperature, also because of Tropic of Cancer, and India lies in between high pressure belt. Now we'll talk about the precipitation or the rainy season of the or the rains of the country. Okay, distribution of rainfall in India. Okay, now the annual precipitation is 400 centimeter in Meghalaya. Okay, so it's very heavy rainfall area in Meghalaya. So it has 400 centimeter of precipitation to less than 10 centimeter in Ladakh and western region. Okay, and comparatively it's less than in Ladakh and western Rajasthan. So in western Rajasthan and Ladakh, there is almost no rainfall, but in Meghalaya, in contrast, there is heavy rainfall. Okay, in most of the country, in northern parts or in upper parts near near Himalayan region or the northern plains, the precipitation generally comes between June to September. Okay, that is the major time that have been considered for precipitation. But in coastal areas like in Tamil Nadu and all of the regions of coastal areas, means these areas, coastal areas, it's in October and November. So here we see a varied difference between rainfall and then the duration of time. At the same time, in October and November, it can be very dry in the northern plains. Okay, and in June and September, it can be dry in coastal areas, and it's not necessary that is there is moisture in the air during these time. Okay, coastal areas at that time can be little dry, specifically in terms of June and July. Okay, so now this becomes a very important reason for the of change of variation. For example, change in varieties, change in the way we live, our habitat change because of the precipitation, because there is a lot of difference between the way the people live in Jammu and Kashmir and the way the people live in Kerala. It's because of the temperature, climate, and the precipitation. All right. So it not just in terms of appearance and the way the people live. It's also because it also leads to some changes like other factors related to food and clothing, right? So that's why there are variation in precipitation. Now, here is a few brain storming questions in which you have to put your brain in and think. First is, how do the houses in Rajasthan have thick walls and flat roofs? Let me draw it for you. This is a very logical reason. Mostly, houses in Rajasthan have very thick walls and they have flat roofs. Since the weather in Rajasthan is very hot and the rainfall it's very less, so that is why the walls of the Rajasthan are very thick, because it prevents from entering the hot and humid winds inside the house. Okay, so this is the reason for having thick walls. And flat roof, reason for flat roof is that whenever the precipitation comes, whatever little water that is collected on the roof, they try to retain it, they try to conserve water through having flat roofs. So that is why the water collected can be used, for other purposes, or it also helps in giving moisture and some coldness. So that is why houses in Rajasthan have thick walls and flat roofs. Second question is, why is the houses in Terai region and in Goa, Mangalore have slopy roofs? Now, difference in roofs. They have flat roofs in Rajasthan, but in Goa and Mangalore they have slopy roofs. What are the reason for slopy roofs? Now, this is in contrast. Terai region, Goa, Mangalore, these are the places which receive heavy rainfall. By rainfall, I mean very heavy rainfall. So, due to slopy roofs, the water did not collect in the roof. Okay, they get rid of the water by the slopes that they have made, and the water goes, on the ground, and ground level water increases. So to avoid the collection of water and to get rid of the excess water, because these are the regions which already have very heavy rainfalls. Okay, that is why the Goa, Mangalore, and Tarai region have slopy roofs. Next is, why are the houses in Assam made on silts? Now, this is a very interesting answer. Houses in Assam are made up of silts because Assam receive very heavy rainfall. Okay, so the state receive very heavy rainfall, and there are often chances of flood in this region every year. Okay, so houses are often made up of silt above the ground level. Okay, if the houses are built on ground level, they will destroy. Okay, and every year new houses have to be built. But to avoid that and to avoid it economically as well, houses are made up of silt to avoid water getting inside the house. And second, they're made above ground water ground levels. Okay, so they are some elevated houses where they are made. So that is why, due to heavy rainfall, houses in Assam are made built on silt. Now we will understand climatic control. So climatic control, there are major six regions due to which a climate can be controlled and climate can be measured for any region. Okay, so first is latitude. Latitude. Okay, for example, this is sun and this is equator, and this is not so beautiful earth that I have drawn. So near equator, sun receives direct waves, okay, direct rays. So in this latitude, there is very the temperature is very hot, okay, and in poles, the poles, the sun rays are not direct. Okay, so they are slanting. So in poles we receive slanting rays. So due to slanting of this the rays, the temperature here is very cold. Okay, so if your house is near equator or you receive direct rays from sun, so the weather will be very hot. But if you receive slanting rays of sun, so you will be having cold weather, cold climate there. Okay, so it is due to the latitude, the kind of in which kind of latitude you are living it depends upon that. Second is altitude. Altitude is distance from the earth's surface. Okay, as we go higher towards earth's surface, the temperature will be less there. That is why in regions where there are mountains or high altitude regions, means they are above the earth's surface, the climate remains very cold in summer season as well. Okay, because the temperature is less in the altitude region. Second is pressure and wind system. Now, first I'll explain you what is pressure system. Okay, as we have already discussed about pressure in very previous slide, pressure is nothing but what according to wind is exerted. Okay, for example, when there is a direct wind in an area, so the wind will be warm in that. Okay, so the direct sun rays are coming, so definitely if the direct sun rays, the wind will be warm. And the if the wind are warm, they are very light, so they move in upward direction. Okay, and on contrast, if we see about pressure on the poles, so pressure on the poles, it's indirect. Okay, so slanting rays are coming, so pressure is not very much. So that is why so I'm sorry, pressure is high in this area. Definitely pressure is high, and pressure is high because the air which is coming due to the rays are they are very heavy. That's why they are close to each other and move in downward direction. Okay, so this is the wind system that is followed. Now in equator, the wind exerts its pressure, and from the north, on the south pole, they also exerts pressure of winds. Due to exerting of their pressure, we have several belts that are formed. Okay, simply just when the wind exerts pressure in the wind releasing to from equator are low pressure, and from poles, that the winds are coming from poles, are high pressure. Okay, so due to this, also there is movement in the wind, because our earth is also rotating. That is why there are several belts that are formed. which are, firstly we have equator, which come under the low pressure zone, obviously. And now these two belts, okay, this belt and this one near Arctic and Antarctic, these are called subpolar pressure zones, okay. And areas which are uh, uh, Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, they are high pressure area, okay. So this is nothing, just the pattern that is followed by wind, and due to constant movement, this pattern in wind system keeps on changing, okay. So this is overall pressure in wind system. Next, our fourth fourth and very important point here is fourth and important point is distance from the sea. Now it's very important. Distance from the sea. Sea gives a very moderating effect. Sea is a moderator. By moderator, it means that it takes time to cool down and it takes time to heat up. Okay, unlike to land, land very quickly heats up and very quickly cools down as well. So, for example, in a situation where the sun rays are directly falling on both the land and the sea. So, in land, it will be heat up, right, and it will generate low pressure, and the winds will rise up, okay. On the sea and the on the seaside, the wind will be moving towards the land, and the wind moving will be comparatively cold, okay. This happens in the when there is sunny, when in the daylight, okay, when there is light. Now, what will happen in night? In night, when there is no sun, okay, let's remove sun from here. When there is no sun, what will happen? The land will cool down very quickly, and the sea will be heat up. Okay, so this will have high pressure, and in the sea it will have low pressure. Okay, because this is heated up. Okay, now the wind will move towards the low pressure. That's why the people living in the coastal areas, or the area regions of coastal areas, does not have much effect of climate. They do not feel neither very cold nor very hot. Okay. On the other hand, people living in north area, for example, people in north areas, they do feel extremely hot and extremely cold, okay, because they do not have any sort of moderator like sea, okay. And this effect, we call it as continentality, okay, because in northern region there is no moderating effect of sea, right? We do not have any substitute or any other component through which we are getting the moderating effect, okay. So sea gives a moderating effect, due to which the weather of the coastal areas remain constant, okay. So this is an important, very important reason to control the climate, okay. Next is ocean current. Now, ocean current is a separate invisible layer of wind that is flowing with the river. Okay, you can consider it like that. Okay, so we have caloric effect on the oceans as well. Okay, for example, oceans coming from equator will have the hot air, will be having, they will be containing some warm airs, and ocean which are flowing towards they are flowing from the poles will be having a cold air effect, okay. So now ocean current depends upon where do you live and in which condition or in which area do you live. Do you live near the equator? If you do live near the equator, so you will have the ocean current that you will receive will be warm, okay, because the air mass will be very warm, okay. So ocean current is just a external layer which is added to ocean, which carries the type of which carries a type of wind mass, okay. This is ocean current. Relief features are quite easy to understand. Relief features are, for example, the physical formality or the geographical region are very, very different. Some are mountainous, some are plain, some are near coastal. Okay, so now climate relief features play a very major role on our climate. So let's understand this through an example. For example, if you let's take two conditions. Okay, so this is a mountain and there are people who live on this side of the mountain and there are people who live on this side, other side of the mountain. If the wind is coming, okay, and they are coming, a moisture of wind is coming. Okay, so wind is coming, obviously the wind cannot break into the mountain and move towards, right? The wind will go upwards. Okay, and when it go up, it will create a condensed situation, and then what will happen? It will precipitate. It will be, there will be rainfall. All right, so that is one condition that you will face. Similarly, if the, for example, let's think that the wind is coming from the other side. Okay, not from this side. The wind is coming on from the other side. Let's draw back this home. Okay, so the wind full of moisture is coming from this side. What will happen now? It will go above condensation and then precipitation. Okay, it will rain here. Okay, so now this is the relief feature that this particular home will take advantage. Okay, and this, there is heavy rainfall because of the features, because of the rain, because of the mountain, right? And in the area where there is no rainfall at that time, where there is no effect, we call it ground shadow area. Shadow area. Okay, so this is a relief feature. Now relief features play a very important role in on our climate. Okay, determine what type of weather or what type of current climate will be there. Will it be rainy? Will it be snowy? Okay, so these are major six reasons which control our climate.